Let's go to Charlie Gasparino, GO fundraiser extraordinaire, Noel Nickbour, former Bush 43 Special Assistant Ron Christie. Ron, to you on the fallout for this and the president getting back to what he thinks are winning issues for him, the tax cuts, strong commander-in-chief. What do you think?
Good afternoon to you, Neo. I think this is exactly what the president should be doing. The Republicans did a sweeping overhaul of the tax code. The president took a lot of credit for this, and you've seen him in town halls in West Virginia. You've seen him go around the country to great fanfare. And a lot of the distractions that President Trump has had, I think, are his own makings. Let's go back and talk about the bread and butter issues, the kitchen table issues, and I think tax cuts are a winner for him.
Noel, you talk to the fundraisers and those who raise money for Republicans and their concerns about what happens in November. What are they telling you now?
Well, you know, it's important to still keep the House and the Senate. So they're going to support Republican candidates, if that's what you're asking.
Well, do they think the president helps that cause?
Sometimes no, sometimes yes. They're very excited about the economy. I mean, because as you know, the economy, basically the underpinnings of the economy are solid. They're great. It's just that every headline that comes out of D.C. is negative, you know, so they don't like that. And the tweets don't help anything either. Mm-hmm. But what I've noticed this morning, I got an email from the RNC, and it said that they're going to put $240 million into the midterms, which tells me it's good they're going to do it, but it also tells me that they're looking at this. That's a lot of money to be pouring into the midterms. And
really? So you think they're worried, you're saying?
They're going to get on top of it.
That's a lot of plow money into full effort, right?
Well, I mean, we had a couple of races that should have been red that went blue. Now, take in mind, both of those candidates are very strange candidates, and it wasn't a good comparison.
One was strange, one was just bad.
Well, but it doesn't make any difference. We lost them. So the end result is we lost them. So I think that, you know, them putting $240 million says that they're showing muscle, and we have more money that we've raised, the RNC versus the DNC. So if they have this big blue wave coming, then why aren't more people donating other than Tom Steyer?
Well, you know, it's a little early, and that is the fear of the big blue wave. You've heard it expressed again and again, Charlie. But, of course, there's going to be attention. Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer, with this hearing. Stormy Daniels, I guess, is going to be at this at 2 p.m. later on today. So that gets right in the middle of all of this. You get this, and I'm wondering how those two fight each other.
Well, those are hard headlines to fight. Stormy Daniels versus Trump talking about tax cuts. I mean, you know, I think, you know, net he probably loses on that, even though he should win on it. Because, you know, here's the thing, Neil. I don't believe we had a sweeping overhaul of the tax system. We have a sweeping overhaul of the corporate tax system. The individual tax system really wasn't changed that much. We gave marginal tax cuts to people who don't pay a lot of taxes. And we may have raised taxes on certain people. So that has to shake out a little bit. And the thing that scares me about the corporate tax cut is, are we seeing the GDP bounce that we should see out of it? Because if we don't get to that 3.5% GDP growth, we're going to get much higher deficits. We're going to have much higher interest rates. And that's problematic. The other thing I would say...
And the rate hikes are still looming. We still don't know how many rate hikes
and by the way, and that's a problem for the markets.
Fast.
And that's a problem for the markets going into the midterm. The other thing I will say is this. On Friday, the markets were generally up. They tanked the minute that I tweeted out that trading desks. I'm not kidding. I looked at this.
Effect.
Yeah, the trading desks, and I said it like this. I mean, I made it clear it was just speculation. Are now speculating that Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, who's in charge of the Mueller probe, and someone who President Trump doesn't like, thinks he gives Mueller too much leeway to do whatever he wants, that he is ousted. Okay, now that tells me the markets are really coordinated on this Mueller stuff. I mean, they are.
In other words, we should preface this to say that the worse it looks for the president, the worse it looks for the markets.
Yes, they are correlated with negative Mueller news for the president, and we're probably going to get a lot more negative Mueller news.
You know, Ron, on that notion, I mean, there are a lot of competing issues here for the president to deal with, and not the least of which is where this investigation is going, what might happen to his personal attorney, what have you. But play that out here, because the tax cuts, to Charlie's points, the real economic impact hasn't been felt, even though a lot more Americans are feeling favorably predisposed toward them, independence, et cetera. How do Republicans seize on that as a winning election issue? Because it hasn't quite, you know, punched through yet.
Hasn't quite gelled yet. And I think to Noel's point of, look, if you're going to pump $250 million into this upcoming election, I think Republicans are worried, and rightfully so. You hear all this nonsense about the blue wave coming.
Well, you could flip that around and also say that they believe spending that money will will win. If you're
Right.
leery of wasting money, you wouldn't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
They're not saying that they're worried about it. Their spin is we're going to do this because we've got the money and we're going to outspend it and we believe in our candidates. So that's their spin.
And
on
we
it.
should go on the offense on this
Yeah.
and to really trumpet our message of we have a pro-growth agenda that we have enacted on behalf of the American people, and don't let a lot of the Democrats try to drag us down with this.
Yeah, I do worry, though, if you're buying stocks, if you're worried about markets,
Yeah.
which I'm always
Yeah.
talking about markets, that you expect more negative Trump news, Mueller news for Trump. You expect a blue wave. That's bad for the market.
Well, and
I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
really
But
I
one
agree with
you've
that.
got to look at one of the things that Tom Steyer is trying to convince some of the Democratic candidates to run on, which is if they win and they get a Democratic House, that they're going to impeach Trump.
Well, I always
So
believe
it's
everything
awful.
they say, both sides, is very much poll tested. So when I hear Cory
That's
Booker
true.
in a conference talking about the crumbs again, to echo a Nancy
Yep.
Pelosi line on these
Yep.
tax cuts, they must be polling that and sensing Americans are looking at this and saying, this really isn't much to write home about.
Well, I think that's
True.
also a mistake. I mean, crumbs, really? You're talking about middle-class families that are actually seeing a return, actually seeing more money in their pockets every month, and the Democrats are going to come back and say,
So
you elect
flip that around, Ron.
Yeah.
If Republicans are in this polling distressful area where they're in, where would they be without the tax cuts?
I think they'd be in even worse shape. I mean, you hear these stormy narratives, you hear the Trump tweet narratives. I think they'd be in far worse shape. But what we need to do is articulate a very clear message and say, this is what a Republican-controlled
Ron-
Congress and a president
Ron,
has.
That's why the
problem that
Democrats don't have anything to run
the
on.
problem that
right.
the Republicans have from a macroeconomic standpoint is this. If you compare the tax cuts for the individuals to the businesses, there were crumbs. I mean, there's no doubt. These are very small tax cuts for individuals.
know if I-
Yes,
Well,
I
look
mean,
at job
people-
growth,
and
look at
no,
wage
just
growth.
let me make my point. It's very small compared to the gazillion, huge tax cut taking
On
the
the corporate
corporate tax down to from
But a lot of
30
those
but it trickled
corporations
down.
are sharing the wealth.
It trickled
That
down.
is now that okay.
Look at
okay, let me
Disney.
just
You've got
finish.
Disney
I
too.
got it. That
See how rude it is when I keep talking?
I got it. No, my point is, if it does trickle down, it's great for the
Right.
Republicans.
Fair enough.
If it doesn't, they got a real problem, and the jury's out.
Yep.
Right.
I
Well, so
wouldn't use
far it
trickle
is.
down. We've heard that term before.
So far it is, and we
It's
still don't know
true.
the ramifications on trade war either. We're still not finished with that.